Good evening. Today is Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, and this is the start of the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. In accordance with Governor Baker's recent order reducing the number of individuals allowed to congregate at any time to 10 due to the spike in COVID-19 cases, this evening's meeting will be held remotely with reasonable access being afforded via live streaming courtesy of Whitman Hanson Cable Access Television. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will be going into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel pursuant to Mass General Law C-30A 21A2. That is item 1. Item 2, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than the profession competence of individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints of charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual pursuant to Mass General Law C-30A. Looking for a motion to go in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Roll call. Laura.
Aye.
Wes. Wes.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay, we will now be entering executive session to return an open session at 6 o'clock or upon completion of executive session business, whichever comes first.
Excuse me, Kenny, but I also, did you vote?
I did not vote. Yes. Thank you, Laura. Okay, we're back. I apologize, we're a little bit late. We had a little bit of long business in executive session. So Laura, would you mind keying up the announcements for us, please?
It would be my distinct pleasure. Nomination papers for the May 15th town election must be returned by Friday, March 26th. That's coming up, it's imminent. Please please call town clerk at 781-293-2772 to make an appointment to drop off nomination papers. All voters and residents who have not returned their 2021 census form are urged to do so by the town clerk. Any voter that has not returned their 2021 town census form will be placed on the inactive voter list for future elections. The Hanson Police Department will host a blood drive on Friday, March 26th from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Log on to tinyurl.com/HansonPOL-M26 and Saturday, March 27th from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Log on to tinyurl.com/HansonPOL-27. Walk-ins taken as time allows. It's almost cleanup green-up time. That's the time of the year when Green Hanson organizes a volunteer cleanup of Hanson streets. It's a great opportunity to get the whole family involved. This can be a learning experience while providing us with a cleaner and healthier town. In order to maintain COVID protocols, we're extending it once again to a 2-week time frame, April 10th through April 24th. For more information, check out Green Hanson Facebook page or email them at greenhanson@gmail.com. On Saturday, March 27th, a drive-through COVID vaccination clinic for all veterans will be held at the New Hope Church, 1436 Grand Army of the Republic Church in Swansea. First come, first served. If you are not enrolled in VA healthcare, please bring a copy of your DD-214. A completed 1010-EZ form can be found at va.gov and a picture ID. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: Facebook Upkeep Committee, Conservation Commission, Associate Members, Cultural Council, Disabilities, Highway Building Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day Patriotic Observance, and Memorial Field Trustees. Applications for appointments and info on the committees are available on the town website at www.hanson-ma.gov. And that's it.
Thanks, Laura. All right, so first up on the new business, vote to close the May 2021 special and annual town meeting warrants. So, John, we're just gonna close those because we missed that the last time?
Yes, we should have done that last week, and we didn't do that. So this is just closing off the warrant to any other submissions.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to close the special and annual
Mr.
town
Chair,
meeting warrants.
Mr. Chair, before we do so, could I add one more article?
Yes, go ahead, Matt.
One article that I would like to add that didn't make the printed list, but we had discussed it in the past. It's a tree bylaw to add to the town. To give a brief description of it for the record, obviously it's going to be here to enhance the beauty of the town of Hanson, but also to prevent clear cutting, which will have an impact to our water levels, water runoff, carbon dioxide sequestration, providing oxygen and habitat to wildlife. So that's the description of it. This Thursday, I'll be meeting with our tree warden and Mr. Phil Clemens to hash out the language for the upcoming town meeting.
Okay. John, do we need to do anything else?
No, that was it. I was going to bring that, Selectman Dyer had told me about that one, so that was one that technically was into me, so before the deadline, but that's okay. And there are two others like that aren't on the printed list that we're going to be going over, but they were submitted.
Okay, excellent. So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
By Matt.
Okay, second by
Okay,
Matt.
sorry, Matt.
Roll call, Mr. Hickey.
Oh, maybe Matt should go first. Aye.
Wes.
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, next, discuss town meeting logistics. So as you guys know, town meeting is May 3rd, Monday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. We have our town moderator, Sean Keeley, here with us. We also have Kate Federoff, our general counsel for the town of Hanson. So John, do you want to lead us off on this one?
Yeah, I also want to say that Town Clerk Beth Sloan is in the Selectmen's meeting room with me right now, and she can come over and.
Okay, good. Well, thanks, Beth. So who wants to start first? I think maybe if we can get Beth in the picture, we can have Beth start. But I guess I'll go first. So me personally, I want to keep town meeting on May 3rd. I think that, you know, especially a year when you have an override, I think that going to the ballot first before going to town meeting is a little deadly. So it's my opinion that we keep town meeting scheduled for the scheduled date, May 3rd at the allotted time. But I would like to hear from our town clerk, Beth Sloan. Well, as soon as John unmutes you, Beth.
What would you like me to say?
What do you think about town meeting on May 3rd? Are you yes or no? You okay with the date?
I am a yes for town meeting on May 3rd, but it's at 7:30, just to let you know.
Okay, that's why I said a lot of time, because I wasn't sure. Sean,
I don't have any objection with keeping it on May 3rd. Was there an argument for why a later date would be better? You know, other than obviously more people might be vaccinated by then.
no, I think that was probably the only argument.
All right.
But, you know, other than that, I think we're good for
Do we
May
want to
3rd.
say where?
Yes, well, that's a great question. Hanson Middle School, unless somebody tells me differently. So I guess we could discuss that. further, but yeah, Hanson Middle School, Beth.
Okay, because I just don't know if we have an override, how many people are gonna fit in the auditorium?
Right, so,
Gotta think about, I don't know the facilities, but you've got to think about overflow rooms where then you have sufficient electronics so that people can hear the debate, participate, and all of that. So it really depends upon what infrastructure you have at that building, and I just don't know.
I mean, we could certainly ask the schools if, if that's available. I don't know. Go ahead, Wes.
I would just suggest, I do think that our last July town meeting went very well. And I think there is going to be an overflow crowd. I think everyone wants to know override pro or con. So I think we're dealing with a large number of people. And I think putting it on the field, I mean, and although in Sean's case, that would mean it wouldn't start at 7:30. We'd have to start, what'd we start, 5?
Yeah.
Last time, maybe. But I mean, we'd have to change the time. But I think rather than worry about where we are with vaccination, which I think is still going to be a huge issue at the beginning of May.
Yep.
So I think we should just start right off and saying last year worked great.
So do we want the town administrator to look into the possible option and check with the school to see if we could possibly do it outside on May 3rd?
Definitely. Yeah.
Is that what you guys are saying?
Yep.
So John, could you do that? Sean, go ahead.
He's left the room.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
one of the things that I would suggest is that part of the reason the summer town meeting worked last year was in part because it was in July and it was less likely to rain, although it was warm. But I thought the meeting that we held in October in the gymnasium at the high school worked well.
Mhm.
And I think once people are, we have a significant number of people vaccinated by then, I'm hoping, but we can also social distance in there. And the school was saying that they had the proper ventilation to keep people safe.
Right.
That might be, I think the high school gym would be a preferable place to the middle school. It may not be quite as good as outdoors, but outdoors is tough because of the weather.
Okay. So when John comes back, we'll have him check with the school and we'll put that as a priority 1. And then we'll put the outside as a priority 2, still for the same date, May 3rd at 7:30. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. All right.
And
Thank
we
you, guys.
are saying the 2 days, Monday and Tuesday.
Right, Monday and Tuesday. Thank you, Wes.
Mhm.
Okay, next up, review May 21 special and annual town meetings submitted warrant article items 3A-3C. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, guys. And I just want to let you know, I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks because we're going to talk about early voting in person in town hall.
Okay, don't threaten us, Beth.
Bye.
All right, so Mr. Stanbrook. He's probably out fishing. Hey, John, item 3A and 3C. So we're on the review, the special and annual, the warrant articles.
Yes.
Item 3A-3C.
Yes, thank you. Well, remember we were going to skip down a bit so that, we could skip down a bit so that
Yes,
we could get down to E to reauthorize outdoor dining in Hanson, because we've got Kate on the line.
Yes.
She can talk to that.
Okay, so new business, reauthorize outdoor dining in Hanson. So Kate, the restaurants have been asking us if we'd be willing to continue what we did, last year as far as outside dining. Me, I'm all for it. It gives the restaurants more seating. It gives people, I think people just feel more comfortable, because the weather's nice and stuff. So what can we do and what can't we do?
Yeah, so the order was extended to allow for that because although some of the constraints that were imposed on restaurants have been relaxed, exactly what you're saying, people feel more comfortable, it's safer, it's working well, and so the governor has allowed us to extend these approvals through 60 days past the end of the state of emergency. And when we made those authorizations, we wanted to have some brackets so we could see, is this working and is it working safely, right? Because we wanted it was all brand new, because you didn't have that same kind of permitting process that you normally would for outdoor dining, which includes the liquor license expansion, as well as if you have a special permit requirement for outdoor dining itself. So this allows us just to say to those restaurants that it did work well and we're willing to extend it. Now you can create another artificial deadline if you feel like that's important, or you can follow the governor's tack and do it until 60 days after the state of emergency ends.
Okay, so I would like to do it the way the governor, the 60 days after the state of emergency ends. You know, I think it just keeping it running concurrent the way it is now, I'd be fine with. Laura? Can't hear.
I know, I'm making a great point as usual on mute. I think I agree with you, Kenny. I think we should just extend it as long as we possibly can and help these guys out. It's been a really, really rough time, and God love them for all hanging in there.
Yeah, good. Excellent. So I don't see any more hands up. Mr. Hickey, you okay? You have any questions?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to extend the outdoor dining in Hanson to the governor's orders.
So moved.
So moved.
How about a second? I got a lot of moves.
Let's all second at the same time too. I'll second it.
All right, so move by Laura, second by Jim. Roll call. Matt,
Aye.
Wes,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Laura.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, thank you for that. What else do we need Kate for? John? Do we need it for placing the proposition 2.5?
Yes, well, the correct wording when we get there, we have to have the wording in on that one until by the 10th. So you have until the meeting on the 6th that we'll have to decide the exact wording.
Okay, and so actually, we're not going to be able to do that tonight because there's still a couple of things that I ironed out on that. Okay, so I'm going to move. So if we don't need, John, you don't think we need Kate for anything else? Do we need it for the, we don't need it for the review on the articles?
I don't believe so. Well, perhaps so. I mean, I sent them to Kate for initial review. Did you see anything that, well, maybe she could talk about that.
So I reviewed the special. The special looks good besides a few little silly things that weren't substantive. I haven't had a chance to review the annual yet. I intended on doing that tomorrow. But I can hang on if you want me to hang on, or I can.
No, that's okay, Kate. I think would be good. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks again.
And we'll be in touch.
All right, sounds good. Bye now.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back up to C, review May 2021 special and annual town meeting submitted warrant articles, item 3A and 3-C. Mr. Stanbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Starting with the special town meeting. So in your packet, I'm sorry, in the Dropbox, I have the first draft of both the special and the annual. I was just speaking about with town council. Again, it's going to change because I got 3 articles in late after I did this, so I'm going to have to add them in and rework it. But we could go through each article and just give a quick read of it, and if that's what you'd like, or I can just do a very short explanation of each one, whatever you'd like to do.
I would go through and do a short explanation.
Okay.
John.
All right, thank you. So on the special town meeting articles, Article 1 will be to pay any unpaid bills from prior fiscal years. That's a standard one we have every year. It will require a 9/10 vote. We have one unpaid bill as of right now, and others may trickle in, but you never know on that one. Article 2 will be, it will be to transfer from available funds a sum of money to supplement appropriations previously voted at the annual town meeting back in July of 2020. That is anything that, any appropriation line items that need funding this year because of any overages that might have happened. This is the mechanism in order to do that. Again, there's several of those. I worked with town accountant Todd Hassett today, and I'll have, by tomorrow, I'll have something to send and put in Dropbox for the following meeting on that. So there are some appropriations that are needed in various line items, and that's the article that does that for the fiscal 21 budget. Article 3 is to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $25,000 from free cash. I'm sorry, let me say that again. $25,600 from free cash or other available funds to pay for a reimbursement to the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District for emergency repairs made to the rooftop unit at the Indian Head Elementary School. So this wasn't on the last week's special town meeting list that I had. This just came in the past week. And the explanation is that the rooftop unit at the school has been non-operable for 4 months and there's no heat or air conditioning. The school made emergency repairs to the building in order to keep that working. And part of the regional school agreement is when the school does that, the town will reimburse that. So that will be on the special town meeting warrant. Article 4 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $13,000 for the purchase of 10 electronic control weapons, or also known as tasers. Again, that was not on the last week, and that is from the police chief, and that will be replacing 10 tasers that are over 8 years old and have reached the end of their useful life. Article 5 would be is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $15,655 for the purchase and installation of 12 desktop laptop computers to be located at the police station. These computers, again, proposed by the police chief, these computers are over 6 years old and they've reached the end of their useful life. Article 6 would be to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $14,000 for improvements to private gravel roads in town. This is an annual article to maintain private roads in order to make them passable for emergency access and public safety. It's likely that that article will be funded from Highway Department article turnbacks, money, which are money that were appropriated at other previous town meetings and were not needed for their stated purpose, and they now are available for other use. So that's going to be a highway closeouts, I guess, or highway turnback from articles to be used for this new highway article. Article 7 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $14,500 for the purchase of a 72-inch commercial lawnmower. Again, this was a new one from not on last week, and as their explanation is that the mowers that we have now have smaller decks and they're in deteriorating condition. And this larger deck will allow for more efficient mowing and will be used on the town's fields, ball fields, and at other town facilities. Article 8 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $16,600 for the purpose of replacing the guardrails at Poor Meadow Brook on Route 27 or Main Street. And again, that's from the the interim highway director. And that is, there's a bridge over Route 27 and Main Street over Poor Meadow Brook, and it has a loose and missing cable guard system at all of the approaches, and the concrete posts are reported as deficient and leaning in multiple directions. So the guardrails in that area do not meet safety specification, specifications and need to be removed or replaced. So that would be Article 8 there. Article 9 is to change the voted purpose of Article 11, number 5 of the July 29th, 2020 annual town meeting. And that was to the original purpose of that article was to replace the electrical wiring at Camp Kawani Lodge. The proposed new purpose would be to replace and update any electrical wiring and fixtures at Camp Kawani Lodge to ensure that it is up to date, including upgrades to the security camera system. And that's proposed by the Recreation Commission. And they would like to broaden the scope of that article to not only upgrade the knob and tube wiring, but at the same time upgrade other types of wiring necessary, brighten light fixtures, and upgrade the existing security camera system. So it's taking an article that was voted for one purpose and then just changing that purpose to a new purpose. Article 10 is to see if the town will vote to authorize the town administrator to enter into a postage meter contract for a period of 5 years as per Mass General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 12B. Unless by majority, again, that's proposed by the Board of Selectmen, and that would be unless you can only have a 3-year contract on things under Chapter 30B, which is a uniform procurement law, unless town meeting votes a longer term. So this would be we could get more advantageous and stable pricing on the postage meter if we go to a 5-year agreement, and that would give the authorization to allow us to do that. Article 11 would be is the changes to the wage and personnel bylaw, and the changes are mostly related to the increase in the minimum wage. There is one addition added that the Wage and Personnel Board did look at, and that is under Section 11B, letter J. Associate Youth Service Librarian was added, and that $17 to $28 was what was being paid in 20. Even though there was no title there, that's what the person doing the like job was doing. And for 7/1/21, that would be the range for that would be $18 to $24. So that's the other than the minimum wage change. That's the only other change. And I'm sorry, there is one other one. Reference librarian was changed as well. Thank you. A little birdie is telling me that the 2BD reference librarian was also changed, which was a similar pay rate of $17 to $28, and that's going to $22 to $31. And then youth service librarian, which is E on that one.
John, you muted yourself.
Okay, let's try again. I hope that I didn't just mute all there. So the D and E are changing from $17 to $28 in a range to $22 to $31. And those are the changes to that article. Now the numbers may change on these because, like I said, I received 2 other articles, and one of the articles was to see if the town will vote to supplement Article 9 that was approved at the October 2019 special town meeting for creating Main Street conceptual design, and change that to the okay, I'm sorry. It is to do Main Street conceptual design with $12,500 from the money that was set aside at the October 2014 special town meeting, Article 40, for updating sidewalk designs. Sidewalk repairs, this will be from the planning board. Sidewalk repairs will cost in excess of $1 million, so it doesn't make sense to spend the money on the design when we don't have $1 million for the sidewalks that we were talking about. And then the final one that would be on the special town meeting, again, the numbering will change. Will be this was going to be in the capital plan on the annual town meeting, but this is, and we've spoken a little bit about this one, but this is after talking to the town accountant and also the interim highway director, Kurt McLean. this one should probably be moved up into the special so they can get working on it right away, right after town meeting in May. Kind of strike when the iron's hot, when we can get some rolling. And this is the Winter Street culvert. And this is to replace the culvert, and that will cost about $180,000. At the moment, that would come from free cash, but we'll see what the funding situation is when we're done. The culvert directs water from a stream that is a tributary to the Indian Head Brook. The pipes have rotted and are in danger of failing, and there's a metal plate covering that the pipes. And the roadway above the culvert is showing signs of pavement failure at the shoulders, and the area has been known to flood during intense storms. So that's a serious problem that we're going to have to get on as soon as possible, and that's why I was proposing that we move it to the special town meeting as opposed to waiting to the annual town meeting where we wouldn't be able to start any actual work until July 1. So that was the special. If anyone had any questions, I can answer.
Does anybody have any questions? Nope, looks like you're okay, John.
Okay, I'm right back at it. So on the annual, Article 1 would be to hear the reports of the various town officers, committees, special committees, and act thereon. That's the usual Article 1 that we always have. It's to accept the report that's in the 2020 town report. Article 2 is to see if the town will authorize the treasurer collector to enter into compensating balance agreements during fiscal year 22. And again, this is proposed by the treasurer collector. This is a standard one every year. I think we spoke about this in a prior meeting, that I don't believe that we have any compensating balances at all. This is technically a moot one, but this would authorize, if we needed one during the year, this would authorize the treasurer collector in order to do that. The compensating balance is something that allows it'll allow the treasurer collector to maintain accounts using credits instead of actually paying things. So if we were going to get $1,000 in interest, but it would cost us $975 in fees, then we would just get $25 in interest. It would be the net, as opposed to getting the $1,000 and having a $975 bill. That's all a compensating balance agreement does. So Article 3 is to fix the salary and compensation of all paid elected officers and committees of the town. Again, we have two, the town clerk and the tree warden, and that would be the article there. That's a required one, and that's the usual one every year. One that's missing that's usually there, the usual Article 3 is to put money into the tax title account, and we have sufficient amount of money in that account right now to make it a year without that. So we don't need that article this year, so that's why it's not on there. So the numbering to people that are used to the numbering in the town of the town meeting warrant, they may say, what happened to that one? Why are numbers off? That's because we don't need that article this year, so that won't be on there. So, so Article 4 is the budget article, the usual budget article for the general fund and the water fund. Special revenue funds and any other funding source. So that's the big one that we always have, is usual Article 5. Article 5, and with that, and I wanted to kind of stop a little bit and maybe discuss this, is that there are two ways that we could present an override. One way would be to have Article 4 have two columns. So the budget article would have two columns. One column would be a column that without the override. One column would be with the override. That's one way to present it. The other way to present it is the way that I have it on here, just because I had to pick one. And Article 4 would be the without an override amounts. Article 5 would be the additional amounts that would be added if an override were passed. So, as we're going back and forth, it's one of the ones where we're going to have to make a call. Do you want to have two columns in Article 4, or Article 4 be the without the override numbers, Article 5 be the additional amounts if the override would pass?
I think you got to have one column. I think the two columns is just too confusing, my opinion. Anybody else? Go ahead, Laura. Sean, I'll get to you. Let me just go through the board first. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Laura.
I'm wondering, am I on mute? No, okay. I'm wondering, have we thought about doing a tiered approach? I know I mentioned this to you, John, and I'm not sure what the technical term is, but it seems to me as though this is an all or nothing. And I'm always afraid when it's almost like you're calling people's bluff, like you're either all in or you're not. And you may find that people are not all in, and then you're not getting anything. I guess you could counter argue that we really need all of this, and that's why we're proposing the amount that we are. We haven't done this lightly. We've thought a lot about it. John's crunched the numbers beyond crunching numbers, and we've still arrived at this point. But I just thought I'd bring it up because we've never discussed as a board whether there might be a different way to present this.
Go ahead, Wes. Go ahead, Wes.
I recall a prior Board of Selectmen that went the tiered approach, trying to get, we would do I forget what it was, 2%, 4%, or 6% increase. And the public uproar was huge because what it does is split the override vote. So no override can beat so no override yes can vote the overrun the override no. There are going to be more no's than there are for the split tiered. So I remember that clearly, and the Board of Selectmen was mobbed with angry people. So I don't think
we don't want that. And thank you for that history lesson. I didn't remember that, so thank you.
But unlike Kenny, I would say I would like I would go for 2 columns side by side so I can see exactly without having to flip pages. This is with the override. This is without this is without. This is with. To me, that looks clearer. That's just me.
Right, but John, wouldn't it have to be on 2 separate articles?
We could, if you were to go with the 2 columns one, I could write the article so that the proper wording would be there that, I'm going to make it up. Column A is the vote if an override doesn't pass. Column B is if it does. Again, there's, I have seen that wording, and I'm sure Kate has seen it in her, and I would know how to write that article if that's what you want to do.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, John, go ahead. This discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, I would suggest, Wes makes a good point about people not flipping back and forth, but I think that could be accomplished with a handout. My concern is that 2 columns on Article 4 would be very confusing to the voters out there, and so sometimes it's hard enough to get through the budget with people understanding what we're voting on, and sometimes I'm confused. So 1 column would be preferable in my opinion.
Okay, anybody else? So this, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead, Jim, it's you.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I had to switch my headphones. I agree with Sean if people could get a handout and only do the 1 column, and John Stanbrook, I know that you can't really get into it now, but you had said it twice now. This is what we have if there's no override. This is what we have if there is an override. I just wanted to take 2 seconds because I know we're going to talk about this later on. But when you say this is what we're going to have or this is what we're not going to have, you're talking jobs and you're talking services, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I mean, for anybody that's listening now that may not be listening later on when we discuss the override, because we really didn't spend a lot of time on it last week. I just want to make sure that it's with this handout that Sean had talked about, which I think will be great, it's what are we going to be missing? And we can wait till later on to talk about that, but it is jobs and it is services. Thank you.
Yep, you are correct, Jim. Okay, John, you want to continue, please?
Okay. Article 6 would be, is the voting the Recreation Department budget for fiscal year 22, again, proposed by the Recreation Commission. They're an enterprise fund budget. It's likely that there will not be any money available to do a general fund subsidy. So the Recreation Department will likely have to have a budget that they can sustain on its merits with its own revenue to the Department of Revenue, or that we won't be able to set our tax rate. So it's going to be a challenge. I think with the things opening up, we might have a fighting chance, but it's difficult for them to have their own. They have to have their own revenue sources and without any general fund subsidies in order to operate in fiscal year 22. Article 7 is the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund budget for fiscal year 22. Again, that's an enterprise fund. There may be money set aside to keep that going if that was the will of the voters, or we'll see how it goes. Right now, I have placeholders because I have to make assumptions based on what we're doing, what might happen. I worked with, again, Todd Hassett today, our town accountant, and put in some assumptions that we would subsidize the transfer station only because we have to come up with a call, and that's what we did for right now. Every dollar that we put in to the transfer station is a free cash dollar that can't go into the general fund budget. It really is 1-to-1, so it's a difficult call, and we'll be getting into that later on. Article 8 is the fiscal year 22 Community Preservation Fund article. It's just their budget for fiscal year 22. Again, that's proposed by the Community Preservation Commission. This is the standard article. Article 9 will be to adopt the capital improvement program as presented by the Capital Improvement Committee. Again, that's the bylaw mandated article that they present a budget at town meeting, and they will, I'm sorry, a 5-year forecast on a matrix, and that they'll be doing that. And that's proposed by the Capital Improvement Committee and the Board of Selectmen. Article 10 is the town and Hanson School article for a capital plan. It'll be all the town and Hanson School related capital items that we can fund on the capital plan. Here's a quick preview. There isn't going to be a lot of them, unfortunately, because we're in a tight spot at the moment financially. And that was proposed by the Capital Improvement Committee and the Board of Selectmen. Article 11 would be it's the Whitman Hanson Regional High School capital items that we could fund. There's, again, not a lot going on there, and that's proposed by the Capital Improvement Committee and the Board of Selectmen. We do have a town bylaw that says that 1% of the budget has to be spent on capital items. So I'm working as hard as I possibly can to find a way to keep within that bylaw of having 1% of items, 1% of the budget be funded on capital items. So we are going to hit that somehow. I'm not sure how at the moment, but we are going to try to stay within that bylaw. Article 12 is to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from the Community Preservation Committee's unreserved fund balance to pay for a redesign for the athletic fields at the middle school. Again, that's by the Community Preservation Committee. That's just a placeholder. I don't have any more information on that one. I don't have an amount yet, but that's just a holder. I'm hoping that by the 6th, our next meeting, I will have more information so that I can put in the dollar amount and see what, and have a further explanation on that. I'm sorry, I think I skipped one because I went to Article 12. Article 12, which should have been Community Preservation's unreserved fund balance to pay for a redesign for the athletic fields at Hanson Middle School. 13 was to look at the parcel to purchase the parcel located at 0 Main Street. Again, those are just placeholder articles. We spoke about them last week. I don't have any more information on them, but I will be getting more as we go along. Article 14 is the adoption of the Chapter 90 funds that the Commonwealth gives us every year. This is just it's in the annual town meeting articles every year, just to accept the money that the Commonwealth gives us under Chapter 90. That's the highway fund. Article 15 is to set the spending limits of the revolving accounts that the town has under the general bylaw. The Chapter 4453E and a half, the Mass General Laws says that we can adopt a bylaw for these, and we have done so. And once we adopt the bylaw, all we have to do is just set the spending limit at town meeting. So that's what we're doing here. Article 16 is to authorize the South Shore Regional Vocational School District to incur debt in the amount of $18,960,537 under the authority of Mass General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 16D. Again, this was the Mr. Hickey was on last week speaking about this one. This is one where it's to do various repairs at South Shore Voc. And they are trying to get the authorization to borrow up to 18.9 million for various capital projects. And based on the proportional student enrollment from the last 3 fiscal years, Hanson's debt share of anything would be that was borrowed would be 13.65%. Article 17 is to place the property identified as assessor's map parcel 49-0-1A under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission for the purpose of wildlife, recreation, and forestry. Again, that parcel is the northernmost. This was proposed by the Conservation Commission, and it's the northernmost parcel of the town-owned former Plymouth County Hospital property. Transferring that property to the control of the Conservation Commission will ensure that the public will have access to the trails and open space. And again, this is more of a placeholder until I get a full explanation of exactly what's going on, but that's the gist of what's going on there. Article 18 is to place the property identified as assessors map 105 parcel 6 under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission for the purpose of wildlife, recreation, and forestry, again proposed by the Conservation Commission. And this is it's about a 1/2 acre lot with frontage on Brook Street. The property is not buildable, and the areas are a wetland, and it is a regulatory floodway. So that would be to transfer the control of the Conservation Commission so that they can support retention of the site in its natural, scenic, and open condition. Article 19 is the Community Choice Aggregation Program Agreement proposed by Green Hanson. This is one that was going to be on the annual town meeting last year, and then it ended up getting pulled, and I think we talked about it at the special in October, and then we ended up pulling it. So this is back on again. It's the same article as last year, and it would allow the town to buy electricity in bulk, and municipalities can combine and switch electricity used by households and small businesses into cleaner energy. And Green Hanson is proposing that the electricity purchased will still be billed through National Grid. Article 20 is a placeholder for flood insurance study. It's to adopt the flood insurance maps. It's proposed by the planning board. In your Dropbox, you're looking at an article that is just a placeholder article. It's going to look something like this. These particular map numbers are just what they were talking about last year. They ended up not using that, but I used that as a placeholder. So it's going to be something similar to this. The FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has updated and adopted new flood insurance rate maps that'll go into effect, and then we have to adopt those maps in order for them to be able to be used. Article 21 is to amend the town Hanson land use regulation zoning bylaw. And again, this is a placeholder article until I get more information on it. But this article would be to correct all the miscellaneous errors in the zoning bylaw book. There are several other, many of them. Some are contradictory, some are numbered improperly, some reference parts of the bylaw that don't exist or were changed or the numbering was changed. So it would just to go through that and rationalize it all again from soup to nuts. Article 22, it would be to amend the zoning bylaw to talk about what we were talking about last week, which would be the special requirements for marijuana establishments. And this would be the idea that marijuana delivery that we talked about last week, with definitions of what a marijuana courier would be, what a marijuana delivery licensee would be, delivery operator, and changing the bylaw in order to do that. Kate is going to be, town council, Kate Federoff, is going to be instrumental in getting this wording just right. Again, what you're seeing in your Dropbox is only just a placeholder. It's going to look something like this, but it's not the final language. And Article 20, and then finally, I got another article, and this is the article that Selectman Dyer was talking about the tree canopy article that he was talking about earlier. I'm going to be adding that to the annual, so probably right after the marijuana article. And then the final article would be the questions. And first of all, bringing in the votes for the offices that are up, selectmen, 2 selectmen, an assessor, board of health member, cemetery commissioner, excuse me, planning board member, Hanson Housing Authority member, 2 constables, a tree warden, 2 trustees of the public library, a member of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District Committee, pre-K to 12, 2 water commissioners, and 2 ballot questions. The first question would be the override question. And then the second question would be, shall the town vote to have its elected tree warden become an appointed tree warden of the town? And there should be a yes and a no at the end of your of the one that you're looking at in your pack. So that was it on the annual.
Hey, John, I just have one question on Article 19. That's the Green Hanson article. Have we spoke to, is anyone from Green Hanson reached out to you? Do they want to move forward? Are they prepared to move forward on that? Or is that just added on because we tabled it the last town meeting?
I know that they've held listening sessions on it. I remember it was on our agenda. We spoke about it. I'm trying to remember when that was, but it was fairly recently. I believe that I haven't talked to them, in the last month or so, but I believe that they do want to go forward with this article.
Okay.
And they were seeking public input on it.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you. That was a lot. I wanted to go over those just so everybody has an idea what the articles. I know we still have to place them and recommend them, but at least everybody has an idea of what that we have to deal with business-wise at town meeting. Sean, go ahead with your question. Then I actually have a question for you, and then Matt.
Thank you, Kenny. Yeah, I just had a question about how that final article would work, because typically the election article is kind of a pro forma, voice vote to move to the election. And it's not really that controversial, but this one has the override in it. So would we be taking a vote on the override and then doing the entire thing? Because we can't have that article voted down and not have the election.
Yeah, that's
a good question for the town clerk, Mr. Keeley.
Well, maybe Kate too.
Okay, I think, again, this is me. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, but I would say that the last article is just, merely perfunctory from back in the day when you would adjourn town meeting and then, go to the election. I think we are going to have the election. I don't see how that would ever be voted down, but it could theoretically be voted down, but I think we'd still have the election anyway. From what my discussions with Beth Sloan, the town clerk, whatever's going to be on the ballot, we have to say in that last article. including the questions. We have to state the questions. So that's why I added it. But what would happen if anyone ever voted no? I don't know. I'd have to either talk to Kate or Beth.
I do believe we have to have town meeting approval to put the override on the ballot. And, that's not going to be a voice vote.
Right, well, you can still have something at town meeting fail, then the stuff for the ballot has to be printed, it's already on there. It's kind of mute, but I remember in the past that there's definitely been questions that failed at town meeting, but were still on the ballot. They just didn't mean anything, unfortunately.
Well, and the only problem would be is if that fails because of the override, then it wouldn't be a legal election because the town meeting didn't approve to move to an election.
Yeah, good point. That's, I think, a question for Kate.
Yep.
We need to circle back. Sean, so I have a question for you. So the way that I like the way I think the rest of the board might too. I like the way you presented the articles at town meeting last year. And I think certainly time-wise and efficiency, I would like for you to do the same thing. Are you okay with that?
Happy to do it. Yeah, it is more efficient. I don't know if we could have gotten any more efficient in October than we did. But no, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
The other comment I just wanted to leave you guys with, I have to go make dinner now. But I'm wondering if somebody, when we debate the override, and it's going to get debated, is somebody going to be prepared to do a presentation on deregionalization or at least speak to that issue? Because I anticipate it coming up.
That's a great question. Right now we don't have the answers yet as far as deregionalization. I mean, Mr. Hickey's on that committee. They came back to this board for some additional support. We need in essence, an accounting firm to look into it. So we're not going to have the answers for anybody, by May 3rd, Sean, unfortunately, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, and I didn't anticipate there'd be answers. I suppose just kind of a status update, because I just anticipate how this debate's going to go.
Yeah.
From my conversations around town. So
yeah, no, we can definitely get you some type of update before then.
Great.
Wonderful. Did you still have something, Matt? Are you good?
Yes, sir. I was hoping to add one more article before we close the warrant. I would like to, a couple years ago, the town was gracious enough to put $10,000 towards a matching grant from the Department of Conservation and Recreation. Right at the moment, I don't think the town is ready to take that grant on. It is a little bit more involved, and I don't think we have the infrastructure, especially if the override doesn't pass. There's no way that would be able to take care of this grant. With that being said, I'd like to add one more article returning the $10,000 that is currently tied up back to the general fund. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, on that one, we don't need an article on that one. You just have to, the town accountant determines whether or not an article has been satisfied, it's met its purpose, and then whatever it was has been done or not done. So we just need something from the people that proposed the article that said that it's no longer needed, and that could immediately, that could be closed. It doesn't have to be an article. It just have to have some sort of notice to the town accountant that money is available for reuse.
So John, why don't we
or to close to the general fund?
Yeah, why don't we put that on the next agenda, and we'll have the board vote for exactly what Matt wants, and then that can be sent to the town accountant to release those funds.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Matt?
No, sir. And thank you, John, for that clarification.
Okay. All right, so next up, authorize the town administrator to sign payroll, vendor, and withholding warrants on behalf of the Board of Selectmen through April 30th, 2021. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Motion's made.
Second.
Seconded by Laura. Matt?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call vote. Jim,
Aye.
Wes,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, old business. FY22 budget update. John, item number 5 is a refresher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just, we had a couple updates since last week. One of the updates was that the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District came out with their operating assessment, and it ended up being $12,951,003 to Hanson. That was $297,285 lower than the amount that they had given us last week. So there's an update there. On the transport, Whitman-Hanson Regional School District transport assessment, they came out with their assessment to the town, and that was $117,956. That was a $14,716 increase over what they had said the last week. And then we had a small correction on the fire salaries of $9,156. So the new budget update override amount or shortfall is $2,181,208. And then just what I've been doing on what we talked about last week was I asked everyone to get back to me with if a scenario of what would have to happen in their budgets if we were to go back to a fiscal year 20 funding level. And I've got several, I got most of the things in there. I still haven't received them all. I could read them all. I could wait until I get them all, and then we could do it at the next meeting. But in general, that $2,181,208, a lot of people have been saying, well, first of all, that we had said that we could afford a 4% increase on the school budget. So I just want to make sure that I don't believe I said that at any time. But what I said as a placeholder back in January, I said, if they were to put in a 4% placeholder, we would have a $1.9 million deficit. That was the number back in January. I had to come up with a number because we had no budget from the school. So I had to pretty much just try to guess. Unfortunately, an educated estimate about that instead of a guess. So that we can't afford that a 4% increase. It was, that gives us a $1.9 million deficit. It really is every dollar amount that the school does not charge us is a dollar amount that we could use on the town side. It really is a one-to-one type of thing there. So a lot of people have been asking also, what would be cut, or how would you get to 2.1 million, 2.18? And again, I spoke with the town accountant today, and I can just very briefly go over what would happen in order if the override were not to pass. And again, I'm not sure about what the override number should be. Should we go for the entire amount? Should we cut as much as we can, and then the amount should whatever's less should be the override amount? And we could talk about that at another meeting. We're going to have to decide one way or another by April 6th. But in general, $2.18 million would mean the school would have to cut $750,000, and Hanson would get 40% of that. And again, that's a round number, and that would be $300,000 of savings. If we used free cash in the transfer station budget to keep it afloat, again, I have to assume things. I'm assuming that we keep the transfer station open, the full boat. It may be that that doesn't happen. The transfer station, every dollar that goes in the transfer station is free cash, is a dollar that can't go into the town's budget. So that would be $118,000. If we use the retained earnings in the transfer station to keep that budget at its maximum amount as it was presented, that's $60,000. If we didn't make any other post-employment benefit transfers, usually we have budget in there for right now $25,000. If we didn't do that, that'd be another $25,000. if we used free cash in the budget of $616,000, more than what we've already talked about, that would be, again, a reduction in that amount. If we used ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation, an additional $100,000, that would bring it down. If we put it, right now, we have our overlay surplus, our excess allowance for abatements and exemptions. That's at $215,000 in our budget. If we were to go to 200,000, that would be a $15,000 savings. We don't need the tax title money this year. That's a $20,000 savings. If we boosted local receipts by $80,155, and you say, why that round number? It's because it ends up getting us to zero. That's about a 4% increase. That would also be a savings. And then finally, cutting the town budget where we can cut it by up to the 20 level, fiscal year 20 level, would be $847,053. So all of those together would be the $2 million amount that we're looking at right now. Real quickly, using free cash is, everyone knows free cash is one-time money. We're using one-time money to fill a void. It won't be there next year because we won't have it, because we're cutting the budget as close as possible. Free cash is generated by revenue in excess of budget or expenses turned back that you didn't spend. Those are the two main things for free cash, and it's just simply not going to be as high as it was the previous year because we were using every dollar amount that we can get. If we use $100,000 more in ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation, I was talking to the town accountant again today. It's likely that we won't have the money to buy the ambulance ambulance that when we wanted to buy it, we would have to push it off somehow. And that's pretty much the reason why we have this fund, is to buy ambulances on a schedule so that we keep them going and we have them rolling. And then again, the town budget cuts, I've got several of them. I could read them all. Maybe I should hold until I get them all. But that there are real, the 847,000 is real money. Going back to FY20 levels means potential cuts all on every department, police, fire, highway, town hall, council on aging, library. Again, for this exercise, I said no to the transfer station only because I picked that. It's not because they're not going to be cut. It's just because we picked that to see what would happen. And so that that's what we're looking at and it's not pretty, but that's where we would have to be in order to cover that. If any of those things were not to happen, then we would have to, the only other place to cut would be to cut the town budget even more. So that's kind of an update of where we are at the moment.
So John, on the 6th, that's when we really got to come up with a lot of these question marks and really go through here and figure out what the board is going to want to do as far as, making the unfortunate cuts in the event that the override doesn't go through. So is that really a date that, we have to really target to get kind of solidify everything here regarding the budget?
So the 6th is the last date that you could vote on to put the last scheduled meeting you have. Actually, it's the 10th is the last date. But the last scheduled meeting you'd have to put an override amount on the ballot, and it has to be an actual number. You have to have an actual dollar amount. So perhaps between now and then, it might be useful to think about whether we should. I'll send these in Dropbox very soon. I just finished it before the meeting today, so that's why it wasn't in there today. But should it be the full amount of 2.1 million or whatever that, some other amount, like we make all these cuts, or some of the cuts, and then there's some other amount that make that the override amount, or should it just be the going back to 20 levels and do everything else on here, and that should be the override amount? So there's kind of there's two guardrails to it, and then there's somewhere in the middle where there's room for a decision.
Okay. All right. So Next up, update and review outstanding selectmen controlled articles. You want to spearhead that one, John?
I am looking for that one right now, but I'll off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, the Article 1 was to about Oldham Pond, and there's about $5,440 left. So I have looked into that with the Conservation Commission agent, Frank Skellinger. There is an outstanding bill for fiscal year 20 for about $9,600. That amount will, we could pay some of the money for that bill. Out of that article will be used completely, and it will become off the books. And then the additional amount, whatever, 96 something minus 5,400 would be coming out of the wetlands fund. So we'll be able to cover that bill. And it looks like this is going to be an ongoing bill, and we're reaching out to the people in Pembroke to try to find the contract and what's going to happen so that we can see what's coming in 21 and what we need to do with it. So that was the article. That was the first one. The second one was, if I remember right, was money to be spent on Monpont Pond. I think it was something like $6,200. Monpont Pond is a great pond of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth usually pays to do things like spraying for algae or cyanobacteria or weeds. So I'm not sure whether they're willing to do that this year. So it'd probably be prudent to hold on to that article until we're ready, until we see what the Commonwealth will do. It's good to have that money just in case the Commonwealth doesn't decide to pay for it this year. I don't know what they'll do. Article 3 and 4. Let me just. I found it. Okay. I just want to make sure what I said was correct. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Article 3 was the McQuon School. We had already spoke about that at a previous meeting, and I believe Ms. Fitzgerald Kemet said to hold on to that money, and that was $6,500. Article 4 was Plymouth County Hospital improvements. That was $10,000, and I believe that we spoke about that at a previous meeting, might have been last meeting, and it was to hold on to that amount. The Mass Tree Grant match was something that Mr. Dyer just spoke about earlier. And that is something that's going to be turned back as it's no longer needed. We're going to send something to the town accountant. Article number 6 was the operational audit. It looks like that Whitman is going to be putting money towards that in fiscal year 22. So that's money we should probably hold on to, and so that we can match what Whitman's going to be putting toward their money towards this. It's been a year, it'll be a year and a half. We're probably going to have to rebid it again, but it shouldn't be a formal, quote process like I did. I had no idea what the amount would be. So I put it out as a formal bid. It's likely just to be a 3-quote process. It should be fairly quick to bid it right back out, get an amount, and be ready to go with it. So we should probably hold on to that for when Whitman does that. And then Article 7, I believe Mr. Dyer talked about this last week, the Plymouth County Hospital reuse engineering. That was $10,000, and I believe he said to hold on to that, if I'm correct. I'm trying to remember, but I think we did. So that was all of the articles that are controlled by the select.
Excellent. Well, you're on a roll, John, so you might as well go right into the town administrator report. Just, there you go.
Okay, let's go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the February 23rd, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting, the board authorized me to sign payroll, vendor, and withholding warrants on behalf of the board through March 31st, 2021. I signed the following 3 warrants on behalf of the Board of Selectmen since the last meeting. A warrant dated March 18th, 2021, warrant 38 for $50,567.51, and that was a vendor warrant. A warrant dated March 18th, 2021, again, warrant 38 PR for $133,408.11, and that was a payroll warrant. And then another warrant dated March 18th, 2021, warrant 38 WH, and that's for $25,368.20. Again, that's a payroll withholding warrant. Under new business, This is about videotaping of meetings. At the Tuesday, May 16th, 2017 Board of Selectmen meeting under old business, the board discussed the taping of boards and committees meetings. And I just have the minutes here, so I wanted to just kind of read it just to so that everyone knows what we're talking about. So it says discussion relative to taping of board and committee meetings. So Chairman McGann reviewed a memo which will be forwarded to boards and committees regarding the taping of committee meetings effective July 1, 2017. Recording equipment will be provided to the boards and committees by Whitman Hanson Community Access, who will provide training. The committees include Conservation, Council on Aging, Community Preservation, Finance Committee, Zoning Board of Appeals, Recreation Commission, and elected boards of assessors. I'm sorry, the elected boards would be assessors, Board of Health, planning. Elected Board of Assessors and Board of Health and Planning, and then library commissioners and water commissioners. Mrs. Kemet inquired as to where the equipment will be located and how it will be accessible. Mr. McHugh indicated he is working out the details with Whitman Hanson Community Access. Mr. Edgehill asked if there was a way to require the boards to tape their meetings, as the minutes are not always accurate. Mr. McHugh indicated at the present time there is no bylaw, and the elected boards will be strongly urged to tape the meeting. So I wanted to know, I did find 2 memos in the computer backup files, and it looks like they could have been sent out to everyone, but I don't know if they were sent out. So is this something that the board would want to reinstitute?
Laura? You're on mute.
I double mute myself, and I do this every time. I had asked John to put this on the agenda because we had received a lot of feedback in response to that Spring Street project, saying, and in other meetings where people have said, there's no transparency with your boards that are appointed, and why aren't you guys taping? And it occurred to me, we're in times when people aren't going to be able to physically attend these meetings, and the minutes, as you all know, are just one person's interpretation and a board's agreement of that interpretation of what was discussed. But I think that context is everything, and where people are able to tape, I'd like to see them tape. And in particular, I would really like to see the Zoning Board of Appeals and Conservation Commission taping. I know Recreation already does, and some of these other committees already do. But as far as I know, ZBA and Conservation may tape, but I haven't seen them tape their meeting, because we've got a lot of land use stuff that people are, we've got abutters that are going and talking and giving their opinion. And I think it's important for people to understand how those boards operate and understand the decisions that they're making and have some insight. And frankly, I've had times when I've been curious about how they arrived at a certain decision or whatever. And, short of trying to get minutes and make your way through it, there's really no way to do it. So I think, we're in a time when people have got the ability to look at things online. We've certainly got leap years ahead of where we were when the prior board, had looked at this in terms of functionality and ability to tape just even on your computer. Back then you were doing handheld video cameras and all that. So I'd really like to see us encourage the boards. We certainly can't make the elected boards do it, but we can certainly compel the boards that we are appointing that are an extension of us, really, right? Because we're appointing them and they're acting at our leisure, if you will. I think we can really compel them to try to be as transparent as possible in videotape. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you. The Mass Department of Public Health, the DPH, has changed the town of Hanson's COVID-19 color from yellow to red. A red color indicates that the town has a COVID-19 positivity rate of 10 or more cases per 100,000 of population and a 5% or greater testing positivity rate. For more information, you can go to the Mass DPH website, which is mass.gov/info-details/COVID-19 dash response dash reporting, or it's easier just to go to the town's website at hanson-ma.gov, and there's a red banner that says that it happened. You click on that banner and you can go right to this website and you can find out what's going on. Every Thursday after 5 o'clock, the Department of Public Health updates the color of the town, either red, yellow, or green, or gray. So that's something that you could keep an eye on if you're interested. On a snow and ice update, as of now, we have a $3,778.60 deficit. All known invoices have been paid, so this looks like the solid deficit amount. This deficit will be made up with a transfer from available funds at the special town meeting. That was the Article 2 on the special. Where it will come from will be, I'll be working on that to see where we're going with it. But again, kudos to Interim Highway Director Kurt McLean and Jamison Shave and other members of the Highway Department for their great work during this winter. The Whitman-Hanson Regional School District has released their FY22 assessments to the town. Just real quickly, the assessments for Hanson, the operating is $12,951,002.72. I rounded it off to 003 in the budget, so we don't have to deal with cents. Non-mandated busing is $117,956. Capital of the high school is $277,465.02. And the capital HVAC is $140,269.46. That number may not be correct, and I'm going to have Town Accountant Todd Hassett reach out to the school district's Director of Finance to make sure that to check on that number, because we had a different number after we talked to our bonding person, so our financial analyst. But that they did release that number to us, and that was on March 18th. Again, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, also called ARPA. Seems like everything has an acronym. So we're calling this ARPA right now, and that was signed into law on March 11th, 2021 by President Biden. The Mass Municipal Association analysis of the money that's to be distributed lists Hanson as receiving $1,076,727 of direct municipal aid and $2,116,703 of money that will go to Plymouth County, and then the county should be distributing that back to the town. Again, early guidance on this from the MMA is that it can be used for revenue replacement, and the old CARES Act money could not be used for that. So we're thinking about revenue replacement. It's things like with the Camp Kiwanee, for example, lost booking events due to COVID-19. They lost revenue because people had to cancel because of the restrictions. That is probably, I guess, in the early stages here, something that this money could be used for is to replace the revenue that was lost due to COVID-19. According to the MMA, again, funds may be used to replace revenue lost or reduced. They could be used to fund COVID-19 related costs, provide support to aid households and provide support to aid households and businesses impacted by the crisis, invest in economic recovery and renewal, and fund investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. The funds will be provided in 2 blocks in calendar year 2021 and in 2022, and they will be available for use through 2024. And the Treasury Department will be providing specific guidance on allowable uses of the funds, and they'll determine the final allocations based on their most recent census data. And whatever the final language of the law is, it was a very dense law, and people are still working through it. So there'll be more to come on this as things develop, but that's where we are with that, with a new acronym, ARPA. And last week I had started reading a letter from Kathleen Clark, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Hanson Housing Authority. I'd just like to continue reading it. It says, this is on February 9th, Dear Chairman Mitchell, My name is Kathleen Clark, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Hanson Housing Authority. As you know, Meeting House Lane is a Chapter 667 property for elderly and handicapped residents. This group was identified by the governor as eligible for COVID-19 vaccines in phase 2 of the vaccine rollout. I reached out to Chief Jerry Thompson for assistance in coordinating an on-site clinic for my residents, as many of them would not have been able to travel to receive the vaccine. The outpouring of support I received from him and his wonderful team, as well as Gil Amato and Teresa Cocchio of the Board of Health, was exceptional. Within a very short time, we were able to coordinate a very efficient and well-planned vaccine distribution effort. Many of my residents were nervous about receiving the vaccine, and both the fire department and the Board of Health treated my residents with care, patience, and respect. The residents have all expressed their gratitude and feel much more at ease about receiving their second round of vaccinations. As she goes on to say, I want to recognize our wonderful town employees who exemplify why our town is such a great place to live. As the saying goes, it takes a village, and the cooperation, dedication, and care selflessly given to this cause is greatly appreciated. And it's again signed Ms. Clark, the Chief Executive Officer of the Hanson Housing Authority. So I just wanted to read that. Great job on all around there. I know that I mentioned it before, but it's coming from the Chief Executive Officer of the Hanson Housing Authority. More proof that we do have some really good people here in Hanson, and they're doing great things. So with incoming attractions, finally on my town administrator report, next scheduled meeting is April 6th at 6 p.m. via the Go to Meeting platform, and the highlights will be to vote the articles, set the override amount, and discuss the impacts to town services. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and you know what, that letter, John, you know, that just solidifies, like you said, we have great employees, and you know, we don't want to lose any of the great services that we have, you know, for that exact reason on why she wrote that, you know. So
Mr. Mitchell, also,
that's good stuff.
and on top of all of that, it's worth noting that our firefighters also had to rescue 2 dogs and a person from Burridge, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, which is hard to believe now because there's no ice and it's so warm and beautiful. But at the time, people were out on the ice and dogs were escaping. So, you know, these guys are just hitting it home, you know, everywhere we look. You know, they're just there for us as a safety net. We somewhat take them for granted, but it's nice that Kathleen wrote that letter. I was just wondering, John, at what point do you think we could sit down and brainstorm as a board about how do we get our maximum amount of ARPA money for this town? How can we possibly spend it? Like, my wheels are already turning, like sewer on Main Street. Can we do that? You know, is this going to help at all with, you know, this year for the budget? I know long-term it doesn't help because we're going to keep getting the assessment and we've got to do something to, you know, sustain this, but, you know, and that type of thing. And you don't have to really necessarily answer these questions now. I'm just kind of throwing out thoughts, but, you know. But at what point do you think will we meet as a team and brainstorm? Will you meet as a team with people up at town hall and come to us with suggestions? I don't really know how that works, but it's a big pot of money and I want to make sure we get our maximum amount. Mr.
Stamber?
What I'm thinking is once we get the final regulations and the final rules, again, everyone has kind of guidances, but we haven't really got the final rules from the treasurers, from the treasury. Once we get those, I think it would be, you know, that would be the time to say, okay, here they are. I hope they're not 1,000 pages. Maybe it's something that's, you know, some sort of primer that we can go by. And then, you know, perhaps we come back to the board and say, we just got the information. I'll probably sit down with our financial team here and come up with, you know, go through it. If it's dense, we'll work through it and then present to the board. This is what we found so far. I'll get it out to you and you can take a look at it. And then maybe we could come together and brainstorm in another meeting at a future time.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Good. Excellent. That being said, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Laura? We could read your lips. Wes?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
And Jim?
Aye.
All right, that's it. Thank you, folks, for being with us. And, oh, one quick thing. We may have to meet next Tuesday just briefly on item number F under new business. So we'll talk about that moving forward, but I don't know if that can wait. Just look out for the emails. Thank you, guys.